Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi. This is another versus video, and the topic we're gonna talk about today is the primitive objects in Blender compared to Maya and Houdini. And I especially gonna also cover the special objects like text. Okay, as you know it already, if you start a new file in Blender, it looks like this. And then if you wanna create objects in Blender, you can do it in many different ways. You can use Shift A, and Shift A is gonna give you this quick menu. Let's say you wanna have a new cube, and it's gonna be generated and placed on the 3D cursor. So I'll have like another mesh, maybe a torus. And with Blender, it's creating an object is a once-off thing. So you place the objects, and then you can rotate it. You have this option here, but the important thing is this the segment stuff. You can only do this one time when you first created the objects, and if you're done with it, you cannot make this kind of changes again. So it's gonna be like a mess that's you like a kind of like deleting the history. So let's say I release this, and then I create another objects, maybe the primitive monkey. The primitive monkey doesn't really have options. Maybe I have like a cylinder. Cylinder actually have these options, vertices, radius, depth, and gone, align the view. Yeah, just bunch of these options. So whenever you create an object in Blender, you have that kind of options. Blender is mostly good for polygon modelings. For Nurbs modeling, 3D software like Maya and Houdini is probably better. Maybe in future Blender, the curve primitive is gonna have more options and a way you can work with curves. But for now, Blender's strength is really in a polygon. Let's say you're creating a grid, you can control the subdivisions. Let me see if I turn on the wire, draw all edges, so you can see how many divisions you want to create. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a funny glitch. You can also create objects by using spacebar, and then you just type in what you want. Maybe let's say you want a monkey, you just type in monkey, and you have another monkey there. That's the basic of generating objects. If you want, you can also use the shelf button. It's like the tool. This is the tool panel. If it's not showing, you tap T, and it's gonna show up. So it's either, so that's the tool shelf actually on the left, and then properties on the right. So it's N and T, the hotkey for it. So you can create a plane, for example, and then you put the 3D cursor somewhere else, and then create a cone. And yeah, the usual stuff. And that's for mesh primitive, but there's also curve primitive. You can use the curve in Blender though. It's quite special. So let's say you have like this circle, which is a curve. The curve in Blender has options such as, if you, let's say I'm duplicating these objects, Shift D, and for this object, for this curve, I'm gonna make it 2D. If it's a 2D object, we can create something like this, like that kind of bevel kind of objects, like a 3D. While if it's a 3D, we can turn it into something like more like a ring. And we can also add a bevel object and taper objects that's using another curve. Let's see if I can turn it into full 3D. So that's a 2D curve and that's a 3D curve, and 2D curve is gonna be always flat, while 3D curve can be 3D. You know, you can actually do things like that, but the 3D curve you cannot. It's gonna be flat. You cannot have a depth. That's a Blender curve and Blender polygon objects or mesh. You have the usual lamp, points, on etc., and then you have also special objects such as the text objects. Text objects are gonna come back to it a bit, maybe a little bit later. But with text object in Blender, it's a special objects in Blender, so you can change the font at any time. You can change the actual text if you want. Maybe you can add an extrusion, add a depth, yeah, things like that. You know, make it looks like 3D. I found that the text objects in Blender is really quite simple and it's quite robust as well. I kind of like it. With text object in Maya, for example, I just jump to Maya right away and then gonna create a text object. The text object in Maya used to be really kind of too basic. You can't do much, because Maya used to be like a Nurbs modeling program. The type is either a curve or a mesh, and the mesh you can't do much about it. In recent version, especially in version 2017, the text object in Maya become a little bit more complicated. You can do a little bit more, but it gets a little bit complex. So if I create a text, for example, it's gonna load the font, and then okay, it's giving you this 3D type, and looks like okay. Now in version 2017 Maya, we can apparently make changes to the text. In the past, this is actually impossible to do, but now you can change. Okay, you can change the font. That's a little bit better than before. Let's change it to impact probably. Okay, and then but the text in Maya, just like any other objects in Maya, is actually made of nodes. Let's say I'm creating a cube, and a cube. This is this is actually a Nurbs cube in Maya. This is if you're using Maya for the first time, you will get quite surprised. Let me maybe just make this full screen. So alright, so this is actually a Nurbs curve. Okay, Nurbs curve is not a normal curve. Nurbs curve is made of flat panel, like a top. It's not like a polygon curve, and it's looking like that. And there's if you use Maya for the first time, you will make that kind of mistakes. Really what you want is create polygon primitives cube, and polygon cube of course is also, it looks like a normal cube, but it's actually quite special because in Maya you have this kind of input and output node, and you can control the subdivisions like that, and the effect is live until we make a duplicate, or if I delete the history. So text object in Maya is apparently like that. It has a lot of inputs. You see, a lot of inputs, including groups for each of the letter. If I select that object, this is like a Maya kind of environment. So if we can go to the node editor, and then we can see, okay, this is there's a shape which is the actual final look of the mesh, and then if I graph this, we can see that Polygon Cube is made of this. There's these nodes that's generating the cube. Let me divide this in like that, like that. And let's hide this. We have the outliner, so that's okay. So we have this guy. Let's say if I collapse this, and then there's an option for depth, height, etc., which we can adjust in the channel editor, attribute editor, which is this guy over here. Yeah, I found it a little bit confusing. I mean, not confusing, but if you think about it, if you just simply want to have a text, you don't want to have this kind of options. It's cool that you can do all this. It's like a node-based procedural stuff, but let's say if I want to work on this text, and this is the actual nodes that's setting up the text in Maya. There's this type extrude node. There is this type node that's controlling the text itself, and then you might work further in, like previously you don't actually have all this, and this is quite new, adding bevel, and I guess that's I guess that's better than before. In Maya, previous version of Maya, like after 10 or 15 years, you don't actually have all this. This is a little bit more like Houdini now. I guess it's slightly better, but still not as nice as Houdini in terms of procedural workflow. Let's say I want to change the extrusion. Maybe I'll look into one of these type. Okay, font size I can change. Kerning scale. Okay, that's kerning. Maximum division. Maximum edge length. Curve resolution. Well, yeah, all those stuff that kind of complicates Maya a little bit. But that's Maya, and then Maya has a lot of primitive objects, the usual light and camera. There's a curve tool, so Maya is a little bit more powerful with the curve. You can have different type of curve, and then you can easily revolve it. I guess that's kind of like from the old style of Maya before it's bought by Autodesk. It comes with it, but polygons and those sort of stuff, like Torus, for example. Let's create a Torus. We can see that it also have these node attributes that you can adjust, and since it is procedural, that can be an advantage for the user. However, for things like font, I think Maya font is a little bit complicated, right? You don't want that kind of input. Like for example, in Blender, you can make a duplicate of it, and then you can just change it into something else, you know. And you can still change the font and etc. In Maya, if I make a duplicate, I lost all the history unless I use like duplicate specials, and then I can have all the history. But again, that's yeah, it's not so user friendly. It's just a little bit. It's a pity, you know. Maya could do better. If I am now comparing it with Houdini, let's have a look. Let's check Blender text a little bit more. We have this option like letter, word. What else? The modifier in Blender is actually it works with the text to a certain extent. Like the build modifier, this is kind of nice. Even like things like subdivision surface and solidify, mirror, remesh. The remesh works with the text. That's kind of nice. Can give us that kind of 3D Lego kind of look. But that's special in Blender. It's more like some things you expect to have in Maya or Houdini. Okay. Let's take a look at text in Houdini. Okay, creating a text, hit tab, type text, or type font. Okay, it's called font, and this is what you get. Frame 1. Because the text in Houdini is actually, it's a live kind of text. You can actually do the same in Blender, I think. If we have, let's see. What is the actual text here? We probably don't have the access to the actual text, but you can use things like animation nodes to control the text. It's an add-on, it's a cheat, but it's gonna work for us. Text output, text object output, get the text, and then you know you want to plug in frame. And now we have something like Houdini. Thanks to animation nodes. So that's kind of nice to have. By default, Blender cannot do that. Maybe you can use driver and Python, but I like doing it using animation nodes like this. It's a node-based procedural. That's sometimes I prefer to do that way. So the font in Houdini looks like this. This is the node, one node that creates the font. This is a nicer implementation compared to Maya, I think. So you can output Bezier curve or Bezier only or polygon only. It's up to you. It doesn't have extrusion, but it has the font size you can change, level of detail. There's this kind of oblique kind of option. Houdini also have other tricks. I don't know. Let's see, extrude. Maybe I need to extrude it. Extrude, or there's another one, polygon extrude. I don't know which one is best. Maybe Polygon Extrudes is the one to use. Only okay, seems to work like that. Output the front and output the back. Maybe I shouldn't share it. And maybe we can use a subdivided. Polygon, it's polybevel. There used to be one node called Brickify or something. This one, let me try this other extrude. This is probably better for the text. One of them is outputting text that looks like this, and the other one is a little bit cleaner. So we can offset it just like in Blender text. We can kind of extrude and offset the text. Yeah, so that's Houdini text font. I guess slightly better than Maya because it really depends on what you want to do. In reality, maybe you have like a text and you want to keep the text alive or at all times, and then you want to turn the text into something else, maybe deform the text or do other things. Like in Blender, you can perhaps deform it using curve or using the lattice. Let's try that. Back to default. Maybe create a lattice. A lattice in Blender is a little bit unusual, I found, but that's because I use Maya beforehand. A lattice, for example, for this text, we want the text is still alive, and I want to use a lattice, and I think that's how we apply it, because we already have scaling. So yeah, so it's working like that. You can have a vertex group with it and use strength. So it's kind of like a modifier. It's on top of the object. It's kind of like a modifier in Maya. Let's say, where's the live text? This is the live text. Okay, and I use a lattice. Let's apply a lattice, deform and create a lattice. This guy, okay, that's what we get, and we can adjust the subdivision, maybe 2 by 2 by 2 for simplicity, and then I can make changes to it, to the lattice, like that. And we can animate. Well, I guess it's not too bad now with the text. In the past, we can't really do this. The text in Maya really is just like a once-off thing, but now we can do a little bit more. But still, all this stuff is, sometimes Maya has a lot of nodes that's not necessarily important. We can still adjust the font size. Can make a change to the font. Okay, that's all right then. In Blender, we can do the same. So back to compositing. Let's get rid of this and then changes to blend. exchange, extruded. Yeah, so with Houdini you can also do the same. Houdini Lattice is even a little bit more complicated, but again, what makes Houdini and Maya different is the procedural capability. So maybe it's not too fair to compare it with Blender. However, Blender has things like animation nodes. So maybe one day Blender's gonna have more of nodes capability, like a more procedural. But here, the advantage of non-procedural is to have objects that's much simpler. In this case, it's a text object, and then you don't need. Sometimes you don't need anything else. You just need a text, and then you wanna just duplicate the text and then arrange it in the 3D with things like Houdini and Maya. Things a little bit over complicated for a lot of things, especially for just a font. If you just want to create a font and reuse that, you don't want to have all kind of nodes. You just want to have a single node that does extrusion or bevel. I guess it's just the way it is, kind of. So for font and simplicity, I think Blender is so easy to use. If you want to bevel, you just add a bevel depth. If you don't want, you just get rid of it. And if you want to work further with it, you can simply maybe remesh it and turn it into polygon and then work further with it. Convert to curve or mesh. Now it's just a normal mesh, and we can maybe deform it using a texture. Let me try. Empty. That kind of effects you can have with Blender. Maybe just a little bit. Deform it a little bit, not too much. That's more like kind of things you want to do using Houdini, but Blender can do that as well, so it's nice. Unusual, so it's just a little bit different. In Maya, say your text, since Maya doesn't have the remesh tool, maybe it can convert it into things like it's kind of look, but again, so I found it sometimes can be an advantage for user or the artist to have control over things like curve. If I'm not wrong, Maya is pretty good at doing this. So this is a text and this is a path animation. Let's say animation and then non-linear. Looks like everything has changed in Maya 2017. I was kind of shocked actually. It's like totally different from Maya that I used to use. Let's try a path animation. Motion path, animation constraints, motion path. Animation constraint, motion path. I don't know, they changed the menu so much that it's so different now. Constraint, a motion path, attached to motion path, flow path object. Let me try. Attached to motion path, give us this. See, Maya crash. That's exactly what I say. Maya is the software that will always crash. Maybe Maya has crashed on me like thousands of times in the last 10 years. I don't know, I think it's something wrong with Maya. In Blender, if you want to do a motion path animations, let's doing it on one of these text. Let's say you have a curved circle and you have this text, still live text, and you want to kind of put it on the path. I believe Blender has its own option for it. So text on curve, Bezier circle. So that's kind of alright. Wait. Although it doesn't give much option if I do it like that. Let's do it differently using modifier and use a curve and just point into that guy. Now we have our live text, and we have control over the text still. It's not always this simple, but still this is like a live text, and then we can, this is Blender live text object. So simple. And you can still rotate the text maybe 90 degree, and if the text is kind of flipped, you can flip it this way. Let's see, rotate X, RX, and 180. Something like that, and we can move our text and our curve, and maybe just rotate the text like this. And you can use driver for that. Just connect the location X with the time, and let's have a look. Okay, auto run disabled, ignore. So for drivers in Blender, it's we need to always turn on this auto run Python script and save user setting. Let's do it again. Control D, create driver, connect the text X with the time. Now we have a text that looks like that. It's really simple, and I think it's supposed to be like this. So I just can't imagine, like, if someone learning 3D animation using $1,000 package like Maya or Houdini, and then they just want to create effects like this, and it can be annoying to always have Maya crashing like this. well, yeah. So that's just like another say conversation topic on a primitive objects in Blender, Maya, and Houdini, and especially with text. Houdini can do path animations and deforming text in a cool kind of way. Let's say let me try Houdini a little bit more. I should practice Houdini a little bit more. I think it's in a polygon. You can kind of brickify or something. Not facet. Divide. I think divide might do it. Bricker polygon. So that's what we need. Actually, that's what I like. So font goes into extrusions, and then this goes into divide. And divide can do brickify. Let's see. Or should I just use poly extrude? I think it's brickify poly. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I want. Brickify polygon. So I really like Houdini being able to do this, and that's actually much cleaner for a text objects. And then we can do things like maybe mountain. That's some crazy kind of result, but we can adjust it. So yeah, that's a little bit better. Extrude, maybe we can merge, consolidate, face, or fuse. Maybe fuse. Houdini is a mystery, you know. So I fuse the object, and then I divide it, and then I use a mountain sop. We can do offset, and we get that kind of effects. It's really nice. It's almost like what we did with Blender here. Really, if so I have this curve, and then let's say I remesh it, and then I use a deformer. Deformer cannot be applied to text objects, so that's unfortunate, but we can convert it to mesh. And now we lost all the modifier effect, but we can still use the curve maybe. Nope. Well, we could have done it differently. So back to where we were before. So remesh and the curve, get rid of the curve, and remesh, apply a remesh, convert to mesh. Now we can do a curve modifier and blender circle. So we have our text looking like that. Still doing it what we want it to do. And while it's doing that, we can apply displace modifier. Yeah, so there you go. That's Maya that just crashes. That's a Houdini can deforming text and kind of dividing text into like a more like a brickified looking. I really like this modifier. I really wish that Blender have it. You can also use a Voronoi in Houdini because it was made for it, you know. Points for Voronoi, so maybe scatter. That's a Voronoi. What if I do it that way? Yeah, we get that kind of design. Maybe exploded view. Very, very cool. Houdini. In this case, Blender and Houdini kind of win. Maya, I don't know where's Maya going. Yeah, so there you go. It's another versus video for Blender Sushi channel. Thanks again for tuning in to this channel. I'm gonna make another video real soon, and we're gonna talk more about Blender, Maya, and Houdini. Thank you.